Hey guys, this is JJ Peters, the host of the Sportstown Podcast. We have a big episode today, huge show. We'll talk about Super Bowl 55 reaction, Daytona 500 preview because it is this week, and talk about some UFC 258 coming up this Saturday. We have a few guests joining us on this episode of the Sportstown Podcast. Joining us first will be JettMdk to talk about the Daytona 500. He has a YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, leave a like, and hit the bell for notifications. I'll leave a link of his channel in the description below. Then we have Kyle Hoffman from the Pickle Podcast to talk about the Super Bowl and UFC 258. All as every podcast, don't forget to subscribe, review, and rate. And as always, my co-host of the show, Michael, will stop by as well. That's all on this amazing episode of the Sportstown Podcast.
Here we go.
The Houston Texans and star defensive lineman J.J. Watt have decided to part ways. The three-time Defensive Player of the Year and former league MVP finalist SB released, first reported by Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network. The Texans granted him that request on Friday morning. Watt released the news on Twitter on Friday morning and stated, "I have sat down with the McNair family and have asked for them for my release, and we have mutually agreed to part ways at this time. I came here 10 years ago as a kid from Wisconsin who had never really been to Texas before, and now I can't imagine in my life without Texas in it. Since draft day, I've tried to do everything in my power to work and earn your respect and try and make you proud on and off the field. You guys have given me everything and more, and I can only hope that you feel I've given you everything I have." During his career in Houston, Watt was the number 11th overall pick in 2011, a three-time Defensive Player of the Year, five-time Pro Bowler, five-time All-Pro, and named the 2010 NFL All-Decade Team. The Texans will save $17 million in cap with the release of Houston legend, and Watt will be free to sign with any team without having to wait until the start of free agency. Most likely, he won't have to wait very long to find a new team. Alex Bowman of the number 48 car wins the pole for the Daytona 500 on Sunday, the inaugural and crown jewel race of the NASCAR season. Bowman moved from the number 88 to 48 car in the offseason because the seven-time champion Jimmy Johnson retired and went racing part-time for IndyCar. He drives for Hendrick Motorsports and has been in the Cup Series since 2014. He edged out his teammate William Byron by about 1 second. Byron drives the number 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports. The rest of the top five are Eric Amarola, Bubba Wallace, and Christopher Bell. Last year's winner, Denny Hamlin, will start the race at 12th. He has the best odds to win his third straight Daytona 500, followed by last year's winner, Chase Elliott, and Ryan Blaney. Yadier Molina is returning to the Cardinals. The St. Louis Cardinals are bringing back their fan favorite to a one-year, $9 million deal. Yadier Molina is a 9-time All-Star, 9-time Gold Glove Award winner, and a 2-time World Series champion. Molina has been with the Cardinals for his entire 18-year career. The Cardinals drafted Molina in the 4th round of the 2000 MLB draft. His batting stats for his career are 281, 160 homers, and 2,025 RBIs. There were some reports that Yadier Molina could re-sign with another team, but after St. Louis acquired Nolan Arenado from Colorado, it seemed like he was going to return to play for the Cards. With the big offseason the Cardinals had, they are expected to win the NL Central and compete with the Dodgers and Padres for the NL in 2021. Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes will undergo surgery for turf toe. The Super Bowl 54 MVP waited to have surgery until after Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, Florida. Mahomes injured his toe in a win versus the Browns in January. The news was first reported by Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network. The surgery will take some time to recover. The wait is expected to be several months, and there's a chance that Mahomes might not be ready for the start of the 2021 NFL training camp. However, it's most likely he will be ready for training camp in August, and the surgery will just make him better for next season. The Chiefs will be looking to get their third Lombardi and forget their loss to the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. Former NFL legend head coach Marty Schottenheimer has passed away at the age of 77. The news was first reported by Chris Mortensen of ESPN. He was battling Alzheimer's since 2014. He coached with multiple teams that include the Browns, Chiefs, Washington, and the Chargers. He was one of the all-time best coaches in NFL to never reach or win a Super Bowl. His career record in the NFL is 200, 126, and 1, although his record in the postseason was 5 and 13. Because of his failures in the playoffs, the term Marty Ball came to existence. However, he was extremely respected, and many coaches that are in the NFL are currently were under Schottenheimer at one time. Bill Cowher, Bruce Arians, and Mike McCarthy, just to name a few of them. Schottenheimer's last season coaching the NFL was 14-2 with the Chargers. He'll be greatly missed, and his time in the National Football League will not be forgotten. The MLB and Players Union have finally agreed to terms for the upcoming season. There will be no universal DH in 2021. The season will be 162 games. Players will report to spring training on February 17th, and the season will begin on time on April 1st. Doubleheaders will be 2 7-inning games. Each offense will get a runner on second to start every extra innings. Active roster limit will revert or will have come from 26 and expand to 28 later in September. MLB clubs are permitted to carry up to 5 additional taxi squad players on all road trips. The MLB CBA ends after the 2021 season. Alrighty, it's time for our weekly poll question, and you can vote on Instagram and Facebook at Sportstown_podcast or on Twitter at SportstownPod. And the question was, we actually have 2 questions for today. The first one was, who were you taking to win Daytona this week? Denny Hamlin, who has won the last 2 years, or the field? And you guys said the field overwhelmingly. And the other one was, who wins the big fight at UFC 258 this Saturday? And once again, you guys agree with me, voting for or saying Kamaru Usman will overwhelmingly defeat Gilbert Burns to retain his title in the welterweight division. Thanks again for voting. You can vote at Instagram and Facebook at Sportstown_podcast or on Twitter at SportstownPod. And soon you will be able to vote on our website at sportstownpodcast.com. And we are back for episode 34 of season 2. It's a big show this week, and I am pleased to be joined today by Jett from JettMdk. Go check out his YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us, Jett.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Excited for the season, are you?
Very excited. I will say this is the most excited thing I've ever been for a NASCAR season, to be honest. So many things happening, new cars, new tracks, new teams, just a lot of new. And with the anticipation of the next gen next year, there's a lot of things to look forward to in 2021.
Let's start off with this. Is there a good chance that Denny Hamlin wins his 3rd straight race at Daytona this week?
I will say yes, mainly because, Hamlin, he has been super strong ever since they came out with this new package with the tapered spacer. He has just been the best driver overall at both Daytona and Talladega. And I believe last year he had an average finish of like 2 point something on both racetracks. So there's certainly a good chance, I believe, he could go 3 in a row. But then again, it is Daytona and anything can happen. So I'm not going to put a definite yes, but I do believe he has a strong chance of going 3 in a row.
What dark horse do you think could win the Great American Race this week?
Dark horse to win, I would look at Bubba Wallace. When he was at Richard Petty Motorsports last year, he was up front. He was in contention for the lead. I think at Talladega, he led, with around 14, 15 laps ago. At Daytona, he was leading with just 5 or 6 laps ago before being caught up in that crash. Bubba's not that bad of a super speedway racer. So, and I think with the team, 2311 Racing and the partnership they got with Joe Gibbs, I think he's going to be a driver that a lot of people might not expect to be in contention.
Speaking of Bubba Wallace, how well does he do with his new team this season?
I'm not going to be one of those people that, think like they're going to be in contention for the championship. I do think they've got the resources, but they're still a brand new cup team. I think that's one thing we have to understand. Doesn't matter how much resources you have, you're still starting out fresh. So because of that, I think they're going to make it into the playoffs. I fully believe that. Do I think they're going to win a race? Maybe one. And I think it's going to come on the super speedways. But I do believe they're going to make the playoffs. And I think finish top 12 in points. That, to me, that's my expectation level for this team. They got the resources, but I think it's going to take some time for them to start developing to becoming a race-winning team.
Your thoughts on Ty Dillon driving Bubba Wallace's car at the Clash?
I understand why they went with Ty Dillon because, he was one of the few drivers, I believe, that was open and eligible for the Clash. But, I don't see anything wrong. I don't know what to say about Ty Dillon. He did lead some laps at the Charlotte Roval due to pit strategy, I think, going out on slicks while everyone else was still on wets. But as for Daytona as a road racer, I don't know if he's going to perform that well. To be fair, he hasn't had the equipment to perform, but I think he's a type of driver that I think if in the equipment that 2311 Racing has right now, he might do something about it, but I can't really say for sure what he will do in the clash on Tuesday.
Kyle Larson is back in NASCAR. How well does he perform this year for his new team, Hendrick Motorsports?
Well, I think I have to understand first of all on Hendrick Motorsports as a whole. Like even though yes, Chase Elliott he is the champion, when you take a look at his teammates, they were not at his level. I think the closest was probably Alex Bowman, and Bowman made it to the round of eight, I believe. But I think with Larson, again, he's been out of the car since April. He's gonna go in there, inexperienced compared to the other drivers around the same boat, I believe, as Bubba Wallace. I think just making it into the playoffs. I don't think he's going to win a race. If so, maybe on the dirt, the Bristol dirt. I think that's his best chance of winning. But I think he's going to make it into the playoffs, top 10 in points. I think that's the expectation level I have for Larson this season. Nothing spectacular, but also not lagging behind.
Who do you like winning the Daytona 500 this year?
I'll be honest, I like the Penske drivers of Keselowski and Logano. Keselowski, even though he hasn't had that much success at the super speedways as of late, he knows how to win there. He won Daytona in July. Joe Logano, a past 500 champion, and he's been extremely aggressive on the super speedways. If he doesn't crash, he is for sure going to be a factor in this win or in this race. So I'm gonna lean towards Logano right now, just because even though he has crashed, he has always been up towards the front. If he can make it to the finish, I think he might have a shot.
Your prediction on which driver do you think will struggle the most this year at Daytona?
I have a struggle. It's really tough because we don't know, with speed, we don't know how the cars perform. But I think, to be honest, I'm gonna go with Kevin Harvick. I don't know something about with Kevin Harvick. He knows how to run well on any type of racetrack, but when it comes to the super speedways, I could be wrong, but he's just not been there. He's not been able to be in contention. He's always mired in the middle of the pack, not being a force to be reckoned with when it comes to the ending of these super speedway races. And I think that trend is going to continue. He could break out and have a really good speed week, but based on previous trends, I think I have Harvick struggling Daytona.
Speaking of Kevin Harvick, why did he struggle late last season in the playoffs? Because he dominated in the regular season.
I'll be honest, I'm still can't believe he didn't make it. I don't. I mean, I think he had an average finish of what 8 point something, and to not win the championship, that is incredible. But I think that race at Texas, that's what started this downfall. I think him having a horrible run at Texas and then another horrible run at Martinsville. On top of that, his competitors are out there scoring stage points, top fives, and Chase Elliott won the race. I think all of that, just two bad races, is all it takes for you to be knocked out of this thing. Doesn't matter how good you are. But I think, I think you might be asking like a follow-up question on how he might do this season. I think he's just. I think Harvick's the type of guy that he's gonna get over this, start the new season fresh, clean slate, focus on the 2021 championship. I don't think what happened last year is going to affect him. I don't think the team is gonna, have that sort of that the ending of last year hung over to this season. They're gonna have a clear mind, and I think they're gonna be a-okay for 2021.
Could Chase Elliott win back-to-back cups this season?
Yes, because of the road courses. I mean, we got 7 in the schedule, I believe, and we know how dominating Chase Elliott has been on the road courses. And he hasn't been that bad, even with Hendrick Motorsports. They're not up there, I believe, with Gibbs and Penske. He has been a really good driver in terms of stats wise last year. Doesn't matter if it's speedway, short track. He has been up towards the front. I think that's going to continue onto 2021, but he's going to have a lot more pressure because now you're the defending champion. You don't want to make sure that people would think that your championship was a fluke. You want to prove that, hey, I am a real champion. I'm going to defend my title. And I believe that with the schedule and how it's structured to Chase Elliott's liking. The short tracks and the road courses that are in the playoffs fits to him perfectly. So I do believe he has a great shot of going back to back.
Before I let you go, and once again, thanks for coming on, Jett. Who do you have winning the cup at the end of the season?
Winning the cup, man. This is gonna sound like a broken record, but I gotta go with Hamlin. I mean, oh man, this is what 4 or 5 times I think Hamlin's been in contention, and he has always missed it just by a little bit. I think with this high downforce package, again with how the season is structured, I think it also fits to Hamlin's liking. He has run really good on the mile and a halves, has run really good on the 2 milers, also run good on the short tracks the past 2 seasons. So I don't see a reason as to why Hamlin. He's still going to be a favorite. I do believe he's going to win the championship, but I mean, I don't know. When you make it to the championship 3 or 4 times and you still don't win it, I don't know. It's just kind of tough pill to swallow, really.
Well, gotta go. Thanks for joining us, Jett. And whoever's listening right now, don't forget to subscribe to his channel.
Thank you, man. You too.
My guest joining me today is Kyle Hoffman from the Pickle Podcast. How's it going, Kyle?
I'm excited to be here, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Some big things happened, and there's actually some big things happening this week as well. UFC 258, Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns. How excited for that fight are you?
I'm really excited for the Usman Burns matchup, simply because it's two fighters that I think really match up well in the octagon as far as their skills. Burns, to me, usually comes out a little faster than Usman, so that'll be something to watch as far as the matchup goes. The first round, Burns, even though he is more of a ground and pound fighter, I feel like he's a better early round striker than Usman. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think it's Usman. I think Usman is just a better fighter overall. But, Gilbert Burns is not a bad fighter either. I mean, he is fighting for the title. So, I mean, I don't know. I have to go Usman, but what is that? What is your prediction on the fight?
My prediction is that Usman wins in late rounds. I think he can take on the early onslaught of Burns, especially because if you look at Gilbert Burns' statistics here, his grappling accuracy is only 37%. His striking accuracy is still below 50%. I believe Usman sits around a little above 50%. Yeah, about 51% on the grappling accuracy and 53% on striking. So overall in the fight, I'm going to give probably, late round significant strikes to Usman. I think Burns will come out hot early. If Usman can survive the first round for Burns, I feel like it could be a 5-round fight.
Yeah, I mean, do you think Usman can either knock, or do you think Usman's going to either knock him out or submission?
I think, I think it's probably going to end up against the cage a lot. I think each fighter is probably going to try to pin their opponent up against the cage and use jiu-jitsu and the wrestling aspect of both of their games is probably going to be the deciding factor in the fight. I would guess if it goes to that. But yeah, the ground game of each fighter, I'm not sure I would rank any one of them ahead of each other as far as that goes. I would give striking to Burns, but I would also give what do you call it? Like Usman will not get as tired as Burns will get after the third round. I think he has a really good gas tank in late rounds, and I think that's going to make the huge difference. I would definitely take Usman if I was to bet, and I probably will, JJ. I probably will throw down a bet on that one, even though Usman is favored, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect him, and he is the champion from the welterweight division.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of UFC, let's go on to the lightweight division. A few weeks ago, Dustin Poirier knocked out Conor McGregor. I'm assuming he fights for the title fight, and who do you think he ends up fighting for the belt?
Gosh, as far as that division, though, you already said to me, it's the welterweight division. It's probably one of the most exciting divisions that you can really think of right now as far as who's in that division. I'm going to look up the rankings real quick, and I'll probably tell you. Let's see here.
I know Poirier's number 2, or either number 1 or number 2, but I know that he's going to get a chance for the title fight over like Justin Gaethje, I think, and I don't think Khabib is coming back anytime soon. So
I don't think Khabib's going to come back. Who was the fighter that fought? He was in the last fight night, and I think he had been a step in for an earlier UFC fight to back up Gaethje if Gaethje couldn't make the fight. I forget who that was though, because my fight knowledge isn't really keen right at this very moment. But
I can't really think either right now. I want to say, I mean, there's a chance that Charles Oliveira gets a fight or gets the title fight, but I'm not exactly sure who the fill-in was.
So the lightweight division, I think Charles Oliveira will probably be the step in for that title fight.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him. I mean, Michael Chandler maybe as well. I mean, he just went out and KO'd I was going to say Dan Hooker, I think it was. And I know he wants to fight McGregor, but I feel like he would get a better chance to fight for the title than McGregor for the next few months.
Did you see what hoodie I'm wearing right now?
Oh yeah, I didn't see that actually.
McGregor hoodie. Yeah. I always wear that, and then people will be like, "Hey, are you a huge McGregor person?" I'm like, "No, not really, but it's a really cool hoodie, you know." Because as far as McGregor goes, you know, he had his day in the sun, you know, I think. But at this point, him coming back and fighting for a title, as far as, you know, the money that he would pull in from pay-per-view after losing to Dustin Poirier, I don't think is going to be as valuable to Dan White.
Yeah, I mean, I always like watching McGregor because he's fun. I feel like he makes the UFC a lot more fun. I feel like he really helped the UFC out a lot and made it popular. But I mean, he's clearly not the best fighter anymore, and I'm not sure he really has in the tank. And I think he's a free agent next year, I want to say. So I'm not sure he's going to return to UFC. I'm assuming he will, but I think what he wants to do is he wants to, you know, get the lightweight title, which doesn't seem like it's going to happen now. And then he wants to go and like do his own fighting, like fight Manny Pacquiao or fight someone of that, or maybe Floyd Mayweather again or something like that.
Right, exactly. Maybe he could fight Nate Robinson, and that could be the fastest KO in boxing history, and then he'd have the record.
Yeah, less than 5 seconds.
Yeah. You know, what did you think about the whole Jake Paul Nate Robinson fight? Obviously, SHIT show.
Nate Robinson looked terrible, looked unprepared, and I'm still not sure if Jake Paul is even that good of a fighter, to be honest.
You know, what's crazy about that, JJ? Have you ever seen the wrestling highlights from Jake and whatever his brother's name is? Logan. They were actually really good wrestlers in high school, and would probably beat the best wrestler at my high school, and we had a wrestling high school. So what confuses me about the whole Ben Askren matchup with Jake Paul is that he's not Ben Askren is not a boxer, and that's really doesn't give Jake Paul any credit as far as that goes, if you ask me. And I watched the Ben Askren interview where he was talking about Jake Paul, and he says he thinks he's going to win that fight, but he doesn't think he's going to win that fight. He's just doing it for the money. It's pretty funny.
I don't really know if Jake Paul is that good of a fighter. I mean, he fought Nate Robinson. He fought, I don't remember who else. I know he's 2-0, but I'm not really sure if he's a great fighter or not. He wants to fight McGregor. That's probably not going to happen.
You know, after he lost to Poirier, I don't know if McGregor might want to actually get in on that fight if he's able to beat Ben Askren in a deciding factor. I think McGregor might want to get in on that money, to be honest.
I mean, I guess he could, but like, I think McGregor, even if it was a boxing match, which I think it's gonna be, I think he'd still win. But I mean, I guess that money,
McGregor would dominate Jake Paul in boxing. I think just because he's a pure fighter. But I think that if Jake Paul does beat Ben Askren in a deciding factor early on, and he's able to actually, you know, show that he can beat a real fighter, I think that he has a better chance of getting a fight with the high profile UFC fighter who wants to step into boxing. And you've seen lately how good UFC pays. There's going to be more people stepping into boxing. I think that's my prediction.
Yeah, I could see that too. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Do you think Dustin Poirier right now all around the best pound for pound fighter?
No, not at all. You know, I think Adesanya probably takes the cake on that one for me, is the best all around pound for pound. I think in Dustin Poirier's division right now, I think that he's probably the most heavy-handed, you know, late round fighter. I think I would rank Dustin Poirier probably top 5 pound for pound right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably put him somewhere in the top 3, to be honest. The way he showed up in UFC 257, I mean, he knocked out McGregor so easily, and I was kind of shocked. I thought it was going to go the other way. I thought McGregor was going to win 2 rounds, but it was the complete opposite. I'm glad I didn't
notice. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I'm glad I didn't bet on that fight.
Right. And I know some Irish people around here, you know, the Midwest, they definitely lost some money on that fight. But then again, you know, if you look at Dustin Poirier's resume, he's beaten some of the greatest pound for pound fighters, I think, in the world.
I mean, he fought well with Habib. So, I mean, and Habib, I think if he came back, he would be one of the better. He's the best lightweight guy. If he comes back, he'd be top 3 or top 5.
Absolutely. So you said before that you thought that Khabib was not going to come back.
No, I don't think he's going to come back. It seems like, well, because Dana White tried to convince him, I think was it a few weeks ago. And I think what Dana White wants personally is he wants to have Khabib and McGregor fight again. But I think Khabib, we all know Khabib doesn't like McGregor. And it seems like Khabib wants to do everything in his power to avoid McGregor just to kind of piss him off. But I don't think he's coming back, because I think if he would have, I think if he would want to come back, he would have already done that and he wouldn't have retired. And I mean,
Right.
he's already, his legacy's already set in stone. So why wreck it? Even
It's a
though I'd love to
lose-lose
watch
for him, to fight McGregor. It's not, there's no really, I mean, if you beat McGregor again, yeah, you have those bragging rights that you beat him again, but I don't really see a point in that on his perspective.
No, yeah, again, it's a lose-lose situation. He's already has his legacy set in stone. He's 29-0 in his MMA record. Why wreck it? I mean, he could end up losing somehow. Then he might have no choice but to fight McGregor, even though he doesn't want to. So, I mean, yeah, it's a lose-lose situation. I feel like even though it'd be more exciting for him to come back, he doesn't want to come back is the bottom line.
No, unless Putin stops paying him, for the family allowance, and maybe he has to come back for a couple $1 million, but we'll see,
Yeah, I mean, he's already made a bunch of money. I mean,
right, he's made a lot.
Yeah, people already consider him as one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time. So again, why rush it? Just stay where he's at now, unless something drastic happens, but I don't see it.
Now, did you see the Francis Ngannou episode that just came out on Joe Rogan yet?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was a good one as well. Yeah.
I think the most interesting thing about that I can take away from Francis Ngannou is, and I think why a lot of people hated him when he first came out, is because he wasn't really, I mean, he was thrown to the lions as well, but he is also himself almost a lion, literally. So it's like,
yeah,
it's crazy the things that these guys go through. I mean, coming out of Cameroon, he was working at, what was he doing for a job? He was driving people on one of those small bikes, like you see on the YouTube videos where you're carrying like 4 passengers on a bike. I mean, that's insane. And now he's knocking the best out.
Yeah, and what is it? UFC 260 is taking on Stipe Miocic, which he has a chance to take on John Jones if he ever returns. I mean, that's incredible as well.
That's really the fight. I was just going to mention that. That's really the fight that I want to see, is Ngannou and Jones.
Yeah, I would definitely be excited. Now, of course, he's got to beat Stipe Miocic, but yeah, I'd be definitely down with that. And I could see Ngannou winning now. But John Jones has been out for about a year now, so by that time, if Ngannou does end up beating Miocic, it'd be close to 2 years the last time John Jones returned to the octagon. So I could see Francis Ngannou winning. I mean, he's definitely one of the better fighters out there. I mean, I think Ngannou is one of the better fighters in the UFC, at least in the heavyweight division. I'm definitely excited for, I think it's UFC 260. I'm down for that. I can't wait for that to happen, because we can kind of, we haven't had a big one since the McGregor and Poirier fight.
Right.
And I don't know. I'm excited.
Yeah, and I wonder, whoever, if Gilbert Burns wins this fight against Usman, who's going to come out of the woodwork after that? Colby Covington is going to start taking shots at Burns if he wins this fight. Burns may even call out Covington. He's a little crazy. I told you that I like these Brazilians and how they operate.
Yeah, I would watch that fight too. I mean, I'd pay to watch that one. I mean, Colby Covington, impressive at last fight. I can't remember who he fought last time, but I know he won convincingly. We'll see what happens, but that would definitely be exciting to watch, because at one time, Colby Covington had the belt for welterweight at one time, right?
Yeah, he had the interim belt at one time.
Yeah, then didn't Usman KO him?
Usman actually KO'd Colby Covington I think within the last 30 seconds of the 5th round. He was able to come back, hit him with the right jab, dropped Covington. Covington recovered, got back up. I think he was hit with a body shot and then another jab to the face, which dropped him, and then he ended him with shots on the ground. So if you're talking about late round stamina, like I said, Kamaru Usman, if Gilbert Burns makes it past if he's able to survive Gilbert Burns after the first round, then I think it's going to go 5. It's going to easily go maybe 5 rounds, but I could be wrong.
Well, the last time I watched Usman when he took on Masvidal, that was a good fight, but I felt like Masvidal didn't have much energy after the first round either, and it was like I don't know. I felt like Usman had control of the whole fight, and both were tired, but it felt like Usman had more energy in the
It could
tank
have to
than
do with the weight
Masvidal.
cut too, in my opinion, how that went with Masvidal too, because apparently he had a tough weight cut too for that one.
Yeah. Speaking of Masvidal, when does he get a chance to fight next? Because I haven't heard much about him.
You know what? I
then.
can't wait until he does though, because I think that they're gonna any fight with Masvidal. I think that matchup, anybody that he really fights, it's an exciting matchup no matter what, in my opinion.
Aping me right now, but I can't remember Masvidal's record. But I know he was hot until that fight versus Usman.
You know what I think I'm seeing here is that Jorge Masvidal was jarring back and forth with Colby Covington, and that could possibly be the next matchup for 2021 for Jorge is actually Colby Covington.
All right. I'm down for that.
Because if you take the most aggressive personality in sports, Masvidal versus probably one of the, well, I'll call him a dickhead, but Colby Covington and Masvidal on paper matchup for a pretty good fight. They both want to stand up. They both want to bang. Colby Covington may wrestle in late rounds, but also Masvidal, he's got that killer instinct too. So that would be a great standoff as well. Who knows what's going to happen when they face each other on the scales?
If that fight did happen, who do you have winning and how many rounds?
That's tough to say. I always try to come out with dual scenarios, like, if Masvidal does win the fight, it'd be early rounds, Colby Covington late rounds, like I've done before. But I would probably say I would probably take Masvidal, just because I think that Colby Covington's his whole game is trying to set up space and trying to, get that distance figured out and then figure out his opponent and then slowly take his opponent down. Masvidal, I think, is just going to go for the kill.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't studied enough of Masvidal to really see what he does, but I feel like that would go at least all 5 rounds, but I guess that would go in the favor of Colby Covington. But
right,
I don't know. I feel like that fight could go that fight could go the distance, I believe. But I mean, we'll see what happens. But of course, it first needs to still be scheduled. But I'm definitely excited for that one, and I believe Colby Covington could win that one. But you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and you know what? I've been really wrong lately too, so that could really count in there about that. As far as my betting goes, anyway, I'm about $75 down on the last fight, so we won't take my word for it this time. We'll take yours, JJ.
All right, let's switch gears to the Super Bowl Sunday. The Kansas City Chiefs got completely dominated. Brady wins his 7th wins his 7th championship. What did you think of the game?
For the most part, I was eating nachos and making pickle buttons because I obviously have a pickle podcast. But I honestly, that game was more about me basically loving the fact that the Chiefs were getting whooped because I'm a Broncos fan. But one of the big takes that I got from that game is that Tom Brady absolutely makes every single player on his team better, and has done that during the last 6 to 8 weeks of the season. That team has improved so much that I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs really saw it coming.
Yeah, and I think with the Chiefs, it felt like in the whole game they thought they were going to come back, because through the whole year, every game they played, they would be down by a bunch of points and it'd be at the end, let's come back and win because we can do that. We have the best quarterback in the league. And I think they kept on thinking they were going to come back, and by the 4th quarter, they're down 28-9, and pretty much what happened was oh shoot, we might not be able to come back from this game. And then I think they just gave up. I mean, you can't put that blame on Mahomes, in my opinion, because Mahomes did not have a perfect game, but I don't think you can really put all that blame on him because his receivers weren't playing well. He had both of his tackles out. Then he also had a center out for the whole season, which wasn't a huge loss, but when you lose both your tackles, that's big. Did you think that was the key factor in the Buccaneers just dominating the Chiefs, or one of the factors?
I think it was a key factor in their game plan for sure. I felt like they could take advantage of the ground on early downs during that game, and I feel like that their running back Ronald Jones is probably running at the best he has all year as far as his downhill running. So I feel like the Buccaneers probably said, "Hey, I think they really took sort of a Patriots centric game plan to that, where they would run on early downs, set up the play action pass, and then in later quarters, really put on that passing game and start to move it downfield once Brady got more comfortable. And I think that's a lot of the time how the Patriots used to operate. They used to just run the crap out of it during the first half, and then the second half they'd really open it up to the screens, open it up to the short slants, and then they would take shots down the field. I feel like the Kansas City Chiefs, I feel like their defensive backs, I feel like just weren't on their game, especially Tyrann Mathieu, even though he had that early interception. I feel like his attitude going into the game was probably, we're going to go dominate and we're the best. And I don't think he was prepared for what they were going to face against Brady in that offense. Bruce Arians is an offensive genius. And I think that maybe it was, I can probably put some responsibility on Andy Reid and his defensive coaches as well.
Well, I mean, I think the what Bruce Arians is known for is basically, I mean, he's an offensive minded coach, but he does a really good job of letting his players play. And he basically, after the end of the game, he's like, I let Brady, or actually throughout the whole season, he was saying, I let Brady coach sometimes, and I just stand back. And I don't think Belichick ever did that. And I think he's taking a little shot at Belichick there, but
spicy.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like the Buccaneers or the Chiefs never got under control. And I felt like the Buccaneers from the start, they just dominated. And I don't know, it seemed like the Buccaneers defense was a huge part, or was a huge key to the game. Now Brady played good and that offense was great, but I felt like it really helped that defense just destroyed Mahomes, and they only had to send 4. They never really had to blitz constantly because the defensive line was just dominating. And then of course I told you earlier that both their tackles were out, Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher. I think it Austin Remmers was one of their tackles. He also had troubles guarding Von Miller in Super Bowl 50 against the Panthers. So,
yeah, and I found a blurb on Google, and I don't know if this is true or not, JJ, but if you look up his Wikipedia, one of the last things it says in his bio is that he was known to be standing around and not blocking during the Super Bowl. So I think I think that's a pretty good way to sum it up there. I definitely think that affected the game. I think the Buccaneers attacked from the edges. Jason Pierre-Paul had one of the best games I've seen him play all year, and he did a phenomenal job.
It just goes to show you that anybody, or even if you don't have all your fingers, you can still do well.
Right, exactly. And he was just poking the eyes of Mahomes all night with those fingers, you know what I mean? Just coming at him.
Yeah. Well, speaking of like the fingers or whatever, I think I can't remember the guy's name. I think was it Antoine Whitfield? Yeah, I want to say that he he had the fingers on Tyreek Hill because Tyreek Hill did that against him in November when the Chiefs dominated. And I felt like that was kind of revenge, saying, hey, we just won the Super Bowl. You can have your win, but we won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the locker room rumor is that was planned and that they also did that at the party afterwards as well. The peace sign was rampant that night. And I honestly don't blame them because if you look at that highlight, what Tyreek Hill did to that defense, he had over 200 yards, I think, receiving in the first half.
Yeah.
And what he did to them, I think that was a huge motivation for the Bucs defense to really just go out there and give 110% on what they were trying to do with that. I don't think they were looking back at all. I think they were 100% focused on trying to embarrass them rather than just play with them. I think they were really coming at them.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed that the game wasn't really high scoring because I predicted the Chiefs to win 42-35, and I was completely wrong. And the points were only scored by 40, and I think I said over.
Yeah, you said over, and then you also said that Brady may throw 3 to 5 touchdowns, which you were actually correct. He did throw 3, did he not?
He threw 3, but he only threw for 201 yards though. So I thought he would throw for over 300 yards.
But, yeah, well, I mean, he easily could have if they had a different game plan. I think that they had the Buccaneers secondary the Chiefs secondary really figured out.
Well,
I mean, just a comprehensive game plan to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, he made Tyrann Mathieu mad, and then when Mathieu talked with Brady, I was like, oh boy, that's not good.
That's the end of it, and that's when he knew he messed up.
Yeah, and now I was not a huge fan of the officiating, but I felt like the Chiefs defense was basically saying, you know what? Oh, I think the Chiefs defense kind of gave up there in the second half, but what did you think about the officiating? Because I wasn't a huge fan of it in the first half, but
I thought that, I didn't really think it was going either way as far as the decisions that were made. I thought that a lot of the things that they called were something that they had to call because it was a Super Bowl. And I feel like it just gets a little more picky at that point, especially with not as many fans in the audience affecting the judgment of the referees. I feel like they are able to have more calls. And I honestly don't have a problem with any of the calls that were made to a huge degree. I think that maybe they could have let them play a little more, but then again, I think the environmental factors there really played into the decisions that the refs were making at the time.
This was kind of all over a lot of talk shows. Who has a better chance of making the Super Bowl next year, the Chiefs or the Buccaneers?
Both. I think it's going to probably be a repeat. And I think Brady's going to stick around. Well, we should talk about that because if I was Tom Brady, I would retire because you're going out on top, right? Unless he really has a definitive reason to go against the Chiefs again in the Super Bowl, which is a risky thing too, because if you play those two teams against each other, the Chiefs may very well blow them out. So it could go either way, really.
Well, I mean, I think most people would retire and say, I'm a Super Bowl champion on top, but Brady, the only way Brady retires is if he can't do it anymore, like what basically happened to Peyton Manning. So I don't think Tom Brady's going. I think he's got at least one more year, maybe two. But I mean, a lot of people are saying they could see him going to 50. I don't see how that's possible, but you never know. It's Brady and he's 43 and he's playing like an elite quarterback at the moment. So you never know what happens. Though.
He's going to say, I really like even numbers.
Yeah, probably. And he switches his number to 8 probably. Because I think he was really considering going to number 7, but that would have kind of hurt his brand because he's got TB12. But
right.
That would have been that'd be interesting if he decided to change his number to 8.
Yeah, which Jordan did it and went back. It's possible. Brady comes back for 1 year with a different number, wins the Super Bowl and retires. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, Kobe had 2 numbers, 8 and 24. So,
yeah, it wouldn't be any different if the absolute NFL GOAT didn't do that as well. So I wouldn't doubt it.
Should the NFL retire the number 12 jersey after Brady retires?
On all teams?
Yes.
You know what? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say just for the Patriots because I think that if you're not able to wear that jersey, a lot of people that looked up to Brady coming up, might want, would want to wear that jersey. It's a legendary number at this point in the NFL, as you can tell. But I think that you should give players a chance to wear that number on different teams, just because I think it's a significant number. But for the Patriots, no one should ever wear that number again.
Well, I mean, the Buccaneers probably should retire that jersey too because they were 7-9 last year. Brady comes and the Super Bowl
if
champions.
Anyone does it, the Buccaneers should retire Tom Brady's jersey for sure. So he'll have 2 teams at least, in my opinion, that should retire it.
Yeah, and of course now in the NBA, the Bulls the NBA didn't actually retire the number 23 jersey, even though the Bulls did, and the Heat I think the Heat retired Michael Jordan's jersey, even though he never played for him. But and especially in the NFL, it's kind of hard because quarterbacks can only wear 1 through 19. And if you retire number 12, that would be really hard because there's a lot of quarterbacks wearing number 12 and guys like Aaron Rodgers also wear number 12. Yeah. So it'd be kind of hard, especially how the NFL does their number system.
Can you imagine telling Aaron Rodgers he has to change his number?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You won 3 MVPs, a Super Bowl, but you got to switch your number.
He would literally look at you with his big blue eyeballs and be like, absolutely not. I'm not going to do it. You can fire me from the past. He would literally go live on a like a beach in Malibu for 2 years before he would come back if they took his number. He would just quit the NFL. He'd be like, nope, that's disrespectful. I quit.
Yeah, probably. Have you ever heard his interviews on the Pat McAfee show?
Oh, all the time. Yeah, I tune into the Pat McAfee show all the time just to see the Aaron Rodgers segments because he is hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Aaron Rodgers, but the interviews are funny with him and Pat. And then, of course, AJ Hawk, his former teammate, comes on a lot. Those are always kind of fun.
Yeah, the AJ Hawk offers, like, when you watch AJ Hawk, just to watch him squirm and watch the stuff that Pat McAfee does and just how uncomfortable Pat makes AJ Hawk sometimes is just pure gold to me. It makes the whole show.
And then Pat McAfee can't stand still. And, he buys a golf club on the Golf Channel for $29.99. That's one of the funniest stories there.
Oh man, the best one is where he's running around in the football field with just like the short shorts on that that he
Oh,
wears.
Aussie
Like,
football, yeah.
yeah, he's doing the Aussie football. That was hilarious. Maybe
Yeah,
we can
then
get him on your podcast someday.
oh that probably wouldn't happen unless I was with a big network, which is gonna be a while from now. Um, what did you are actually going back to Super Bowl? What did you think of the performance from the? Well, I should say, what do you think of the performance from Andy Reid? Like, could he have changed his coaching style after they were down 21-6 at the end of the first half?
Yeah, I'm gonna give Andy Reid the unknown credit that he was probably trying everything in his power to switch up the game plan. And I think that maybe his game plan, um, what that reminds me that when before the Super Bowl, they were saying that the Bucs would really have to handle the Chiefs game plan and how they spread the ball out with Kelsey and all that stuff. But I really think it went the opposite way. I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
Gronk was a huge factor. He had 2 touchdowns.
yeah, and you know what's crazy about that is all the guys that Brady brought in, Gronk, Antonio Brown, Leonard Fournette, all of them
Touchdowns.
had touchdowns. Yeah, that
Touchdowns.
I thought that was a little interesting. But yeah, I mean, Andy Reid didn't have a lot of options because they were getting blown out by the third quarter. But I felt like
Yeah.
he kind of went back to the way I think when he was with the Eagles, because
The
he
Eagles.
constantly would do that, especially in Super Bowl. I think was it 39 against Brady. That's right, it was against Brady, and I don't
Yep.
think he really changed his scheme, even though they got beat and their offense was getting shut down. So I mean, I feel like Andy Reid kind of went back to his style with
His
the
old
Eagles,
roots.
but he still has a Super Bowl. So I mean, that's kind of
What's with his
it's kind of the
mask,
outlet.
by the way? Is that a feeding trough, or why is it shaped like a gonzo nose? That's what I want to know.
It looks like it, but actually, I think there was someone said that he actually does it backwards or something like that. It's just like a regular mask, but I think he does it somehow that like
Upside
the
down
way
and
it is now.
backwards, probably.
Yeah. I think he feels like that's more comfortable or something like
You can
that.
probably
Or
breathe easier in it because you can see it kind of pulsating like an airbag, when he's breathing.
yeah.
Maybe he can breathe easier. And I honestly don't blame him, because a guy of his size, I would probably want to be able to breathe the whole time.
Yeah,
You know what I
because
mean?
yeah. I feel like he has a cheeseburger in there though sometimes. Just
Yeah.
kind of chomping on that thing.
Just a microwave dinner in there that he poured in there before the
Yeah,
game.
exactly. Because he like early in the season, I think he was wearing the shield, and he was making that popular because he had a lot of coaches wearing one, and then he reverted, or not reverted, he switched. I'm not exactly sure why, but that must have worked for him because he wore that probably through 3/4 of the season. So,
Definitely.
where do you rate Bruce Arians in coaches now that he has a Super Bowl? Like right now, top 5, top 10, top 3, maybe.
I think that I'm going to be able to make that decision after next year. Because I think a lot of coaches are one and done when it comes to Super Bowls. So as far as Arians goes, he's still got a lot to prove to me. As far as like in the NFL, I would definitely rate him, I would say like top 8 coach. What do you think?
I think top 10. There's so many good coaches out there. I think Andy Reid, I think Belichick's still a good coach, even though he's not looking good right now, and he misses the playoffs without Brady in his first year, and Brady wins the Super Bowl. You got to put Pete Carroll in there. John Harbaugh is a good coach. Matt LaFleur is a good coach.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many good options. So I don't know if I would put him in top 5. I'd probably put him somewhere in the top 10, just because, like I said, there's a plethora of really good coaches, and it's just, I don't know, you gotta really think about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I like Matt LaFleur too, and isn't he the one that he's the Packers coach, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's the one that actually drafted what's his face a quarterback in the first round, so he took a lot of heat for that.
Yeah, Jordan
But
Love.
at the same time though, with how volatile Aaron Rodgers has proven to be, I don't see that as a dumb pick, to be honest.
Well, and my brother and my dad are actually big Packer fans, and I was talking to him, and I don't exactly know. I don't for sure know if Matt LaFleur was the one drafting Jordan Love. I feel like that was the general manager or the president's decision, because it feels like, I don't know, it feels like they thought that Rodgers couldn't do it anymore, and I think it was in 2019 he didn't have that great of a season, but somehow they went to the NFC Championship game, and then he ends up proving him wrong, basically. But I don't know if that was necessarily Matt LaFleur's decision of drafting Jordan Love. but we'll see. We'll never know probably, but I think that, he comes out of the Sean McVay system. So I feel like he's somewhere in there in the top 5, top 10. He's, like I said, in back-to-back years, he's went to the NFC Championship game with the Packers, who had missed the playoffs the last 2 seasons before he came over. So I would definitely rate him in the top 5 probably.
I would rate him in the top 5 too, as far as upcoming coaches as well. Yeah, definitely.
So now we pivot. Let's go to the off season right now. There's a lot of questions on who the Buccaneers can keep and all. Actually, just recently, J.J. Watt was released by the Texans. Who do you see him going to?
I think if I was just to make an uneducated guess, I'm going to say that the Panthers definitely need as much help as they can get on either side of the ball, especially losing Luke Kuechly to retirement.
Yeah, they desperately need a pass rush, offensive line. But their pass rush is really young. I think that's kind of why. But I mean, if you add J.J. Watt, that immediately makes him better.
But their salary cap after losing Kuechly too, I think they could afford Watt, even though they may get him a little cheaper than what he's worth just because of all the injuries. But I think that the Panthers would be a nice target for them. I'm also probably going to look at maybe the Broncos because John Elway has a knack for recruiting veterans into that system, not necessarily on the offensive side of the ball, but a lot of time on the defensive side of the ball. So I think, he could possibly end up in a spot like Denver too, who is focused on defense.
Yeah, I mean, they have, Von Miller's, I think, a free agent this year, and I'm not sure Von Miller's coming back to Denver because of what he's had to deal with the last few years.
Von Miller's going to go somewhere sunny.
I could see that, to be honest with you. I think like J.J. Watt, I think he's going to go to a contender. But I think J.J. Watt, I could see him going to Pittsburgh because both of his brothers play there, and imagine having T.J. Watt and J.J. Watt on the D line.
That would be insane.
Exactly. Scary thing. Or maybe Baltimore, they need some pass rush help.
Yeah.
Green Bay, he's from Wisconsin, and maybe the Chiefs just because it's Kansas City. Or if he wants to ring chase, he goes down to Florida and plays with the Buccaneers. I think the biggest, I think he's going to go to the Steelers or the Ravens.
Steelers definitely need some help too on that side of the ball. What do you think about the whole Deshaun Watson situation? About him, is he becoming a free agent? Because I know the Broncos were actually making tweets trying to get him to come to Denver.
Well, he's not a free agent. So here's the crazy part about it.
Yeah.
He's likely going to get traded, I think. But the thing about him, he signed a massive contract before the season started, and he had told everybody that he likes Houston, he wants to stay, all that. But after this year happened, I think he got really mad. It seemed
especially how they lost.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And then he lost his top receiver last offseason for basically pennies on the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen probably with Deshaun Watson is he is making so much money right now that it seems like no one's going to be able to afford him. The only people that are going to afford him are non-contenders like the Jets maybe. And if the Jets trade for him, Watson's in pretty much the same situation because they have no draft capital because they traded so much for him. They have no money. He's in New York, but he would pretty much be in the same situation he was in Houston. So I don't think he's going to get traded. However, one team that I think that it's kind of a dark horse that you keep your eye on is the Las Vegas Raiders.
Okay.
They need a quarterback, and I think they want to move on from Derek Carr.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that too.
And they have some draft capital, but I just don't know if John Gruden wants to give up that much. And I think what he wants to do is he wants to give up Derek Carr, but the problem is he wants multiple first-round picks, and Derek Carr isn't worth that. So he's not a free agent. He has to get traded, but right now it seems like the Texans aren't going to trade him because they have the final decision on that, and I don't think they're even listening to trade offers. So it seems like Deshaun Watson, I think he's stuck in Houston at the moment.
Mm-hmm. How long do you think Big Ben is going to last for the Steelers? Or how long do you think he is away from retirement?
I think he should retire now, and I think the Steelers would love that, but I think he wants to go one more year. I think he's going to pretty much just say, I want to go one more year, and the Steelers have no choice because he's under contract, and if they release him or let him walk, it's pretty much they owe him a bunch of money, and that's not a good situation there. So I think if I was the Steelers, I would see if I can move on from Big Ben. Doesn't seem like they can, but I think the Steelers need to look into trading or drafting a quarterback. They did just sign Dwayne Haskins from Washington, but I don't know how long that's going to last. So I think right now he's going to go one more year, even though he should retire.
They'll make Haskins into sort of a Charlie Ward there, I think, maybe.
Yeah, again, I don't think he's still got time left, and he's really young, and he kind of was in a bad situation when he went to Washington. But with a good coach in Ron Rivera, he struggled. He was suspended, or he was fined twice with Washington. He got his captain role stripped. He's been benched multiple times. I don't know. It's gonna be a hard work for Pittsburgh, but he does have the same agent as Mike Tomlin, so that's I think the reason why he signed in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's some other veteran quarterbacks too on some other teams, but I can't really think of any off the top of my head. But I know that there's a lot of room for new growth in the NFL as far as quarterbacks go, especially with guys like Josh Allen coming up too. I think some teams are going to be looking for some fresh quarterbacks out of the draft, and maybe even trading for, guys like Deshaun Watson or maybe even Aaron Rodgers. Who knows?
Yeah, and another team too is the Colts. I'm intrigued to see what they do. They have pretty much the roster. They need more receivers. I don't think they have a bad quarterback because Philip Rivers just retired, but they have Jacoby Brissett. Not a bad back. I thought he was a pretty good quarterback, but I feel like the Colts want more. So
yeah,
they right now I think are looking for a quarterback, and they are kind of in a bad situation right now because they have the 21st pick, I want to say. So they're likely not going to get a quarterback, at least in the first round. So I feel like they might try to do something here. They were interested in Matt Stafford from the Lions. That, of course, didn't work. They're very intrigued in Carson Wentz from the Eagles, but the Eagles want too much for him. So I don't know. We could see what the Colts do, but definitely keep an eye on what they do in the offseason.
Yeah, I could also see the Colts, though, go in the opposite direction, just rolling with Brissett for another year and just trying to stack up, the rest of their gaps on what they need to do, and then making a run for somebody next year too, especially if they have another season like they did.
Yeah, Philip Rivers didn't have a bad year, but it's Philip Rivers. He was literally on his last leg. They, I think, need to find a quarterback, but I don't think Jacoby Brissett's a bad option. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't know if he's great. It feels like the Colts, though, really want to go for that quarterback, and they just haven't found one yet. I think Chris Ballard, the GM, is really looking. Who knows what they'll actually do, but I could definitely see them basically doing what you just said, rolling with them one more year, see what happens. Maybe they'll go 12-4, be the top team in the AFC.
If they have the same management as they did in the past years, and I'm not sure about their GM, but they've constantly gone after gunslinger quarterbacks who can push the field. I just don't think Jacoby Brissett is their idea of what they want to have success with. I think he's just basically, a chess piece in there playing his part. But yeah, I agree with you totally that I think they're going to go after someone with a big arm, wherever it may be. And I think they're going to go after someone who can get back to that old Colts playing style of really taking it down the field at the secondary.
Yeah, they could maybe go for Derek Carr from the Raiders, but again, I don't think Chris Ballard wants to make a move and give up 2 first-round picks for a quarterback that is not worth 2 first-round picks. I think they really wanted Stafford, but they didn't want to give up what the Rams gave up. So the Colts, they'll be a good team next year, regardless of whoever's playing quarterback. But I think the Colts just keep your eye on to see what they do in free agency.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what other free agents there are right now.
For what position?
Any position, really. We could talk about anything.
Well, there's what's going to happen with Dak Prescott is, I think, a big story right now. The Cowboys look like they're going to franchise tag him again, and he might eventually just get annoyed with it and just to say, I'm demanding a trade. We'll see what happens there. Does Aaron Rodgers get traded? Recently, Russell Wilson has been in the news. His team said he was tired of not getting protected. I don't see him getting traded, but who knows?
Right. There's also something here about T.Y. Hilton too.
Oh yeah, he's a free agent. Yep.
Yeah, they're saying he could possibly make a projected 3-year contract of $28 million.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't think he's returning to the Colts again because he is getting up there, but we'll see what exactly happens. But I could see a team like Green Bay, they need another receiver. Yeah. Maybe Baltimore, they're in desperate need of a receiver.
Baltimore too, yeah.
Maybe he wants to ring chase and go to KC. Houston, maybe, but again, I don't think the Texans have much money. But there's a lot of options you could go with. But I could definitely see the Packers.
I'm not sure he would fit in Baltimore because of right. I'm not sure he would fit in Baltimore because of Lamar Jackson and how they match up on paper. I could see it happening though, just because the Ravens are probably desperate to get a veteran receiver in there. Because I feel like what happened with wasn't it Crabtree that was playing for the Ravens or?
Yeah, he was there about 2 years ago. He was all right, but they ended up waiving him. But
Or who was it? It wasn't Crabtree. It was the guy that used to play for the Cowboys. Des Bryant. Was he playing for the Ravens at one point? Or am I wrong?
yep, he was playing with him this year.
Yeah.
He did pretty good. I felt like he had a good chemistry with Lamar Jackson. I think he had 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks, I think. So he's
Nice.
definitely in there, but he's a free agent. So I would assume he's returning. But I think Baltimore needs that number one receiver. Like if they went out and made a move for Julio Jones or Allen Robinson's a free agent. Kenny Galladay is a free agent. Yeah.
Wow.
AJ Green maybe. I mean, they could go for another tight end. I mean, they just need another pass catcher, I think, to be able to finally get over the hump and knock down like the Bills and Chiefs.
The Lions without Stafford and Galladay is a sad thing to think about.
Oh, they're tanking, I think. I don't think Jared Goff is going to help their problems. I think it's just going to be just as bad as it was.
Well, he's a system quarterback, I think, too, especially with McVay. I think Goff was just basically told what to do.
Well, yeah, I think McVay made Jared Goff a lot better because you remember in his rookie year, he was not good. Yeah. And then Sean McVay comes out and 2 years later, he's in the Super Bowl. That's, I think, the reason why Jared Goff was so successful. And then when he got the contract, he didn't have the team and it didn't go the same way. I think he's just an average quarterback. And I think when you put him in a terrible situation in Detroit, it's much worse.
Right. Exactly. So what do you think? Can I plug my show for a second?
Yeah, no problem.
So if you guys want to check out my show too, it's called the Pickle Podcast. You can find it out on pretty much any platform. Just search the Pickle Podcast, look for the neon pickle. We also have a shop on picklejip.com. You can get cool hats like this and stuff too. Maybe we'll put some UFC stuff up on here. And hey JJ, maybe we can get you some sports hoodies and stuff too for you, because that would be pretty dope, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm down. I would definitely want that. I'd give it to a few people. So yeah, I'm down with it.
Okay, cool, man. I really appreciate you having me on, man. This was way more fun than anything I could have done on a Friday night and in my life of COVID right now. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming on. And again, if you want to come on anytime, you're more than welcome to.
Anytime there's a UFC bout, just know that I'll be texting you, because I'll be probably betting on the fights and probably analyzing it to extreme degree.
Okay. I mean, I think UFC 259 is coming up here pretty soon. I think in March, I want to say. Yeah. So yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
Okay, that sounds like a plan, man. I appreciate you having me on again.
Yep, no problem. Again, that was Kyle Hoffman from the Pickle Podcast. Don't forget to go check out his channel. I'll leave a description down below. And once again, thanks for joining us, Kyle.
Thanks, JJ. Have a good night, man. See you next week.
Yep, you as well.
See ya.
All righty. Time to talk about Super Bowl 55. I'll be joined, as always, by my co-host, Micheal Mentzer. We'll discuss and we'll react to Super Bowl 55. Micheal, the Chiefs absolutely get destroyed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What did you think about the game on Sunday night?
I was really surprised by it. I definitely didn't expect the ball. I don't think a lot of people did. I think a lot of people thought it was going to be a pretty close game, and I think I had the Bucs winning, but like I said, I thought it was going to be a close game, and I did not expect the ball at all.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were stunned, and I think the Chiefs were the favorite, and everybody was expecting it to be anywhere around the 30 range, high scoring, but that didn't happen, and I actually had predicted the game to be 42-35 Chiefs. I was way wrong, and that's why I don't bet in the Super Bowl. So, Micheal, what do you think was the problem with the Chiefs on Sunday night? Was it their offensive line? Was it the coaching? Was it the defense? Was it the wide receivers not being able to catch anything? What do you think was the biggest culprit in the Chiefs' loss?
All of the above. I think their offensive line definitely, the injuries definitely had a effect, and I think Patrick Mahomes definitely didn't play his best. I think the receivers definitely didn't help by not catching the ball. The defense couldn't stop Tom Brady at all either. So it's just the whole team really just did not play well.
No, they didn't. If you look at the stats, Mahomes, every time he got the football, he had to basically run for his life because he had absolutely no protection from that offensive line. To be honest with you, I think that was one of the worst performances from the Chiefs I'd ever seen. We had seen some, bad performances, not very much. But under Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs have always been good. And to be honest with you, I was really disappointed, but I don't think it was Mahomes' fault. I mean, his catcher or his receivers couldn't catch. He was under duress all like the whole game. What grade would you give Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl on Sunday night?
I would say like a C plus. He didn't play bad, but he definitely didn't play good considering it's Patrick Mahomes. He was kind of just, eh.
Well, I mean, like I said, he was under duress the whole time. He had no protection whatsoever. I mean, the Buccaneers did an absolutely great job. They had a great game plan. Todd Bowles and Eric Bieniemy both are great coaches. They got screwed out of the head coaching job, I think. I don't know why, but they just did. But if you really look at it, I mean, this Chiefs team just couldn't protect him. And there were some nice throws by Mahomes, and they were all ended up being, I think the nicest throw that we'd ever seen was an incomplete pass to Mahomes. They were down, I think, 31-9 or something, and he threw a nice pass to a wide open receiver, drops. And I mean, that was exactly what the Chiefs receivers were on Sunday night. Not good. And the Chiefs have a lot to work on in the offseason. What do the Chiefs do now? What's the next steps for the Chiefs to get back to the Super Bowl, Michael, for this offseason?
I think the biggest thing is they just got to get more depth, especially on the offensive line, and then they also have to beef up their defense a little bit because their defense hasn't been great, never been great, but it's gotten a lot better in recent years. But I still think that there's some holes on the defense, particularly at linebacker. So I think that and offensive line are the two main things.
Yeah, I mean, they had two really good offensive linemen, Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz. They were both out, and you'd think they would have a decent back, but it felt like they just weren't even. They weren't even. It seemed like they weren't even trying, even though they were. That's how good the Buccaneers defense is. But I definitely think injuries had had a huge effect on the game. If we go to the Buccaneers side of the thing, or if we flip to the Buccaneers, what do they need to do in the offseason to get back to the Super Bowl?
I don't think there's a lot that they really need to do. I would say running back could maybe use a little bit of help, and then just getting depth. I think secondary too is another place that's not bad, but it could use some work. So yeah.
Well, I mean, they have a lot of free agents this year because they had a lot of guys on 1-year deals. I think Ndamukong Suh is a free agent. Chris Godwin's a free agent. I think Shaq Barrett was on a franchise tag. He's a free agent this year. They have Leonard Fournette's a free agent. Antonio Brown's a free agent, and they have a lot of guys. So I'm assuming they're going to try to bring it back as many guys as possible. That's what I would do. And whoever you don't bring back, just draft those replacements because it feels like they're not going to have much money at all in the offseason to sign big free agents. Do you think the Chiefs or Buccaneers have a better chance of making the Super Bowl next season, Michael?
I personally think the Chiefs do, just because the AFC isn't great. I think the Bucs are the better team. They showed them the Super Bowl. It's just that the NFC is so stacked.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Buccaneers' chances, but I'm not sure I like them better than the Chiefs. The Chiefs are just dominating. The Chiefs are just so good. I think they'll be back next year, and I think they'll definitely want to get the revenge from what happened this season. They're going to have a tough road, though. The Ravens are probably going to get better. The Bills are going to get better. I mean, the Colts will probably get better. They're going to have a little tougher of a route, I think, but I think the Chiefs I'm going to agree with the Chiefs. They will have a better chance of making the playoffs than the Buccaneers do. What happened to Tyrann Mathieu on Sunday night, Michael?
Are you talking about like how he was taunting Tom Brady?
Well, that and how bad he didn't have a very good game either. But what did you think of Tyrann Mathieu's performance on Sunday night?
I mean, honestly, like I said, no Chiefs really played. Even no Chief played to the level that they were capable of playing. Some of them played decent, like Patrick Mahomes, but he still didn't play to the level he's capable of playing. So I just think it was overall bad from everyone.
Well, I mean, that defense had 8 penalties, I think, in the first half. I mean, that's inexcusable. I mean, you can't do that, especially against the Buccaneers. And I think when Tyrann Mathieu made those comments to Tom Brady right before the end of the half, I think that really made Brady mad. And I think that made him wanted to go out there and throw win the game and win easily. And I think the Chiefs, the defense has got to get better than that. They got to be more disciplined. That was probably one of the worst performances I saw from the Chiefs since the Patrick Mahomes era began. So the Chiefs, they got to figure out, they got to get a defense is what they definitely need to do in the offseason. Free agency is coming up. Could you see any of the top free agents signing with the Chiefs or Buccaneers for next season, Michael?
Possibly. I'm trying to think of some of the top names because I can't think of a lot of them off the top of my head. So, but I think, like you said earlier, the Bucks, I don't think will have the money to get a big free agent if they re-sign everyone. And then, yeah, I don't know about the Chiefs. I think they could possibly, but
Well, I think neither the Chiefs or Buccaneers are going to have a lot of money because if you recall, last year the Chiefs just paid a bunch of guys in free agency and they didn't sign a bunch of guys in free agency. They brought back a lot of their players that included Mahomes. They gave him an extension, then they went out and signed Travis Kelce new extension. I mean, I think they got a lot of players locked up there in Kansas City, but I do think the Buccaneers will bring in bring in a bunch of guys on 1-year deals. They're probably not going to bring back all their players, but I think Gronk, Antonio Brown, and I'm assuming Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul will be back as the main trio to come back from the Buccaneers Super Bowl team. Let's get back to the Super Bowl real quick. Would you have given the Super Bowl MVP to Tom Brady or the Buccaneers defense?
well, I mean, Tom Brady obviously played well, but it's also Tom Brady in a Super Bowl. He always plays well in Super Bowls. So, but I was more surprised by the Buccaneers defense being able to shut down their Chiefs offense. That's really good. So I would probably give it to them.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a player technically, but if it wasn't an MVP, a lot of people were saying that Todd Bowles, the D coordinator for the Buccaneers, could have got the MVP, and I wouldn't have complained about that because he had an excellent game plan. You know, a lot of people are considering Mahomes to be the greatest quarterback of all time, and Todd Bowles was able to shut him down in one game, the most important game of football. And here's an interesting stat. I believe in the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes has more interceptions than touchdowns. What do you think about that, Michael? How Mahomes has more INTs than touchdowns in the Super Bowl?
I mean, it's kind of going kind of similar to like how Andy Reid always chokes in the Super Bowl. I think I don't really know.
Well, I mean, it's just so weird how the Chiefs are not. It's just so weird how Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and he's got a great record in the playoffs, great stats, and then when he gets to the Super Bowl, he's got 4 touchdown passes and 6 interceptions. That's kind of strange to me, in my opinion. I think I would be a little. Well, actually, I think he's got 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Excuse me. That's not really. That's not really. You know, that doesn't make your resume look good. And I'm not sure exactly why that is. Do you know why Patrick Mahomes seems to always struggle in the Super Bowl, Michael?
I think it's probably because he's still pretty young, and so he just hasn't had. There's just a lot of pressure, and I think that can still kind of get to him. Even
Yeah,
though
I
he's
mean,
been there for a couple of years now, but yeah, I just think there's just so much pressure, and yeah.
do you think Andy Reid deserves some blame for the loss on Sunday to the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I definitely think he definitely I think should get some of the blame just because I don't think he had a good game plan, and I think he kept trying to kind of do the same thing over and over again, even though it clearly wasn't working. And yeah, I just think really everyone I think deserves blame on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna basically agree with you there. I think we kind of, like I said, Andy Reid, I think, went back to his Philly days. I mean, that was what it was always criticized with the Eagles. I mean, he was always a guy that would do the same play consistently, even if it didn't work. I mean, that was kind of a problem with Andy Reid. He'd make the playoffs, but that was about it. He has a Super Bowl, so he's going to be a Hall of Famer no matter what. But do you think Andy Reid wins another Super Bowl before he retires, Michael?
Probably, as long as the Chiefs continue to be the Chiefs, I could see them winning another one.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him winning next year, to be honest with you. But I think I still have the Ravens being the Rams in the Super Bowl, but I could see the Chiefs definitely being another team to be reckoned with. And for the next 10 or 15 years, we're going to see the dominance of the Chiefs. But it's just interesting how Andy Reid always seemed to struggle in the postseason, except for last year where he coached very well. I'll just say that. Let's go to the Buccaneer side of things. Tom Brady now wins the Super Bowl in his first year without Brady. Between Brady and Belichick, is Belichick not a good coach now that Brady won a Super Bowl without him in Tampa in his first season?
Personally, I think that they're both really good, which is why they continued to have the success they did. But I think if I had to pick one to be better, I'd say Brady is better than Belichick, just because he was able to win a Super Bowl without Belichick. And, Belichick, I don't think really, for sure without Brady, obviously, it could be different. But I think that Belichick didn't really do as good as I would have expected him to do since he was such a good coach with Brady this year.
Well, I mean, do you think Belichick would have won a Super Bowl without Brady?
I think he definitely could have as long as he had like a pretty good quarterback, like a solid quarterback.
I mean, when he had the days of Drew Bledsoe, I think they went. No, that was with Bill Parcells. They went to the Super Bowl in '98. But yeah, he had some decent quarterbacks, but he never had the Tom Brady-esque quarterback. Before we end our conversation, right now the offseason is going to begin, but then we're going to go into the draft, and it seems like the Jags are going to lock Trevor Lawrence in at number 1. Is there any wild card you could see going in the top 5? Like anybody that we're not expecting to get taken by one of the top 5 teams top 5 worst teams in the NFL, Michael?
Not right now. I haven't really had enough time to look at film and scouting, so don't really know too much about that yet. But so no, not off the top of my head.
Alrighty, thanks, Michael. Once again, he comes on every week. Don't forget to check his YouTube channel at Angry Turtles. Don't forget to check that out on YouTube. Subscribe, leave a like, review, rate, all that good stuff. Thanks for listening to the Sportstown Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like, leave a comment, and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications.